Hi, we're back. Hey everybody, welcome to another conversation. I hope you have your coffee ready, you're ready to go, because there is a question that's been sitting with me for a while now, and the more that I look around at the church, the more I begin to question or ask a question that we really don't ask enough, and I think we should. And that question is this: are we really following Jesus, or are we just fans of him? Because we live in a culture that is built around fandom, right? We follow people on platforms, we follow teams, we follow podcasts, we follow preachers and churches, you name it. We cheer, we like, we share, we show up, sometimes when it's convenient. But following Jesus was never meant to be convenient. Jesus never said, "Come admire me." He said, "Follow me." He said, "Deny yourself and take up your cross." He said things that actually caused people to walk away and not to lean in. So today, I want to have an honest conversation, not about other people or what's wrong with the church, but about us, about what it really means to move from being a consumer of Christianity to actually living it. Because the world doesn't need more Christian fans. It needs faithful followers. And I am very, very thankful that I'm not having this conversation by myself. I have two of my dear friends, as always, to join me here and be a part of this. And these guys love the church. They love Jesus. And they aren't afraid of real conversations. And it's so good. Now, we have seen each other in the 2 years since. We're obviously very, very good friends. We do ministry together. But we haven't seen some of you in a couple of years, and y'all haven't seen the three of us together. And so it is my honor, first of all, to introduce my very good friends. And I'm going to start with the newly minted student minister at Northwood Baptist Church in North Charleston, Mr. Jeff Moss. Good
What's
to have
up,
you
Tony?
with us again. Good to see
Thank
you,
you,
Bubba.
brother.
Love you. How's fam and them? Y'all good?
Y'all, yeah, man, we good, dog. We
That's
got
right.
everything down
That's
going
right.
over here, no saying.
So, hang on. Now, Robbie, are you the only one at this table right now without coffee? Oh yeah, there you go.
Mine
There
tastes a
you
little-
go.
Mine tastes a little bitter in this cup, but you know.
There's a lot of tears in Tony's too. I'm not gonna lie. There's a lot of
Yeah,
tears.
you're not wrong.
Very salty.
You're not wrong. Boy, I don't know what happened, boy. We turned the corner at the beginning of the year and we started conference play and we can't do anything, man. So
it's rough.
so it's been tough.
What's conference?
But that brings me to yeah. That brings me to my other guest, a good friend, the pastor of Together Church, here with me in Monk's Corner. And we used to always refer to him, and we will continue to do so, as the illustrious potentate. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Robbie Foreman. Good to have you with us, brother.
2 years and we still haven't shaken that. Okay.
No, not going to, man. Not going to. I'm an old dog, man. I find something, I stick with it. I don't let it go. I don't let it go. So,
Hence the Tar Heel fandom.
yeah. Yeah. Hence the joke I told the other night that I still continue to tell. I have updated it. We were doing the CLM graduation the other night, and they asked me to come up at the end and sort of do the invitation and all of that. And I stood up, and I've told this joke a million times. I actually stole this joke from my father-in-law, who I heard tell it many times when I stood up. And of course, you get to the end of the night of something, and then the pastor or the preacher steps up to the podium and everybody in the congregation is like, oh, this is going to take another 30 minutes, right? And I looked at him and said the old joke. I said, don't worry, I'll tell you, like Elizabeth Taylor told her seventh husband, don't worry, I'm not going to keep you long. But I've had to change it because people don't understand that. Not everybody understands that reference, so I changed it.
The new generation does, thanks to Taylor Swift.
Right, and I say, don't worry, I'll tell you like Taylor Swift. Yeah, I'll tell you like Taylor Swift told her last boyfriend, don't worry, I'm not going to keep you long. And then she goes and gets engaged. So now I got to find somebody else. So
she made the whole Elizabeth Taylor song famous, so we're good.
That's right.
Teenagers know who she is now.
That's right.
I always forget that Robbie is such a Swift fan. I forget about this.
Whoa. We're not going there.
Oh, yeah.
I'm neither a fan nor a follower. So.
Hey, I like that. Good tie-in.
I don't know, man. If you insert a Taylor Swift song into one of your sermon clips.
Let me disclaimer: I have teenage daughters and a wife, so let me just throw that out there.
Okay. All right, we'll let that go. All right. So today, here's the question that I want to pose to you guys and kind of start our conversation. So when you hear the phrase fans versus followers, what immediately comes to mind for you guys, especially when you think about where we are in the church right now?
Boy. This is
Robbie, you go first.
Well, shameless plug. I actually wrote about this in my book. That's what I've been doing for 2 years. And but I have a whole chapter that I wrote about just not a fan but a follower. And I think when we look at that, especially in the church, I think it's very important that we understand the difference between those two things. I would define it like fans want what Jesus can do. Followers want Jesus.
Yeah.
I am a huge South Carolina fan. You guys are huge North Carolina fans, right? Dude, I will go to the games. I will buy the merch. I'll do it all. But when we don't go get the right players out of the portal, or we lose 5 games in a row, or I'm just not going to watch you. Like, my Saturdays aren't going to revolve around you anymore. But when the tide turns and we're having a great season, I want every ticket. I want to be there. I'm all in when I'm getting the joys of more than wearing the gear. But the moment that falls, and I think a lot of times in the church, that's what we're kind of seeing, right? Is that we have people that they want what Jesus has, but they don't really want to surrender the life to Jesus. And I think about, I keep going back to this passage, like when we started talking kind of about this conversation. When you go to John chapter 6, there's a moment here in Jesus' ministry where he feeds 5,000. Would be amazing to be a part of that, right? Think about it, sitting on that hillside, and what you're seeing is thousands of people, probably estimated upwards of 15,000, since they didn't count the women and children. And side note, how interesting is it? The blessing came from the one they didn't even count on, right?
Yeah.
But when we get to John 6, they have seen all these things, miracles, free food, they're inspired. But then Jesus turns and he says something hard to them. And it says that Jesus tells them that, hey, I'm the bread of life. And real life is not about getting more from him, but giving our lives to him. And just like that, John chapter 6, we get to verse 66, and the Bible says from that moment, many of his disciples turned and went back. They did not accompany him. They were followers, and they were fans. And there's a huge difference. We got to be very careful with that in the church. Got to be very careful with that in the church, because what happens, and we're seeing it. And I'm not being political. I don't do politics, but I do talk about humanity. We got to be very careful where our allegiances lie, and we don't place values on the Jesus that Jesus never intended. Because I do believe, especially with people saying, "Hey, I'm a believer," you're a fan. And Jesus would flip tables in our churches today because of some of the stuff that we're doing. But that's a soapbox. Jeff, why don't you bail me out of this hole I've dug myself in?
Well, Kyle Idleman wrote the book, right? Not a fan.
Yeah.
And I did that study. Huh?
So as a joke, he said Kyle Ottoman, and he said, "Yeah, not a fan." So,
No, that's the name of the book. Sorry.
he's a great author.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we went through that study before I even knew you, Tony. So that was back when we were in Durham, North Carolina. So, but what he talked about in there, is very prevalent to today. But I feel like some of that we changed now because social media has changed everything in our lives. Where especially, I'm mostly dealing with high school, middle school students. They want followers. So a fan, they're like, oh yeah, you have fans, and then like you don't even need to talk about like all the other permeations of those words. So defining those terms for students a lot of times is, are you a disciple of Christ? Yeah. Or are you somebody who is just treats Jesus like a side chick? Let's put it that way, right? We were in our staff meeting yesterday at Northwood, and we were talking a lot about that, right? There's a lot of people who treat the church like, hey, I'm not feeling well. Something's not right in my life. I'm going to go run to the doctor and get my meds and then go back about my life. Where Jesus, he called us to die, right? He says, if anyone must follow me, he must deny himself, pick up his cross, and follow him. And that's kind of the first steps of discipleship. But a lot of people have honestly grown up in the church, and that's where they stopped. They're like, okay, I prayed my prayer, I'm good with Jesus, and now I just want him to make my life better. Where Jesus wants to do so much more than just make your life better, right? Like Matthew 6, store up for yourself treasures in heaven where moth and rust don't destroy, where thieves don't break in and steal. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also, comes to mind. And I feel like a lot of people are holding on to the things, and I got to check myself too, right? Am I holding on to the things of this world more than I am the hope of heaven, the hope that God is calling me to, that I will spend eternity with God in a place that's so much better than this?
Well, and I think too, we can get in a place, even as Christians, where we fall into the fan category sometimes, where we skate on our Christianity or on our walk or on our discipleship, and we just say, no, we're good. We may not consciously say it out loud, but there's so many things, time and busyness and all of that kind of stuff that can get in the way of that growing discipleship. And I think sometimes too, when you go back to, Jeff, like you talked about that initial moment of surrender, where you believe that you have surrendered and you speak those words that, Jesus, I'm ready to surrender to you. But then they walk back, and I've seen this so many times with students too. We've all on this panel been student ministry. Jeff currently still is in student ministry because that's where the Lord.
That's what it is.
Well, I think, listen, I think that's true of all of us here at this. I think there's an element of not growing up. There's still that 12-year-old middle school boy inside each one of us that calls us to be a part of student ministry. But I think that we can allow things to take away from that moment. It's like when Jesus told the parable about the farmer throwing the seed. Some of it fell, but the birds quickly came and picked it up and took it away. Is one of the scenarios. And I think that happens because I think that somebody may have a genuine heart for surrender, and may want to, but you can say those words, but until it happens in your life, they're just words. And we may have a genuine desire to follow Christ, but until we actually take the physical steps or the spiritual steps to surrender, then it's moot. And there's so many things that can cause that to happen. Again, going back out into life, seeing it so many times with student ministry where a kid will go to camp, and they'll have an amazing week and they'll experience God, the Holy Spirit, in a tangible way there. And then they get back on that bus. I used to always say this when we went to Awanata, right? Because there's no cell service up there. There used to not be. But you would, that was always my Friday morning message when we would go up there. Like, guys, listen, you've had an amazing experience up here, but something is going to happen when you get on that bus and you ride about a mile down that road out of these trees, where all of a sudden life comes back. You've lived up here isolated and to get to know Jesus for such a long, for the last week, excuse me, for the last 4 or 5 days. Now you're going back into life. And what are you going to do with it? Because the surrender means that when I go back into life, I'm a different person. Not when I go back into that old life, I let that life take me back over. Because there's an issue with our familiarity, both with our present life and with, you can use that as a side of, well, my parents have always taken me to church, or I always went to church when I was growing up and all of that kind of stuff. And so there's a familiarity there that I think people sometimes hold on to versus true surrender. And it's the idea of faith that's inherited versus faith that's owned. We have to own our own faith.
Well, the easy-believism of the church is something that is a black eye, right? Especially in the past 10 or 15 years, right?
And we can have a really long conversation about that, and we will next week.
Yeah.
Keep watching. Yeah.
But, the growing up in church and people not really knowing Jesus is bad. And that's the reason why I'm gonna go ahead and apologize to any of you who are watching that have been hurt by church. You were probably hurt by somebody who did that, who said they were a Christian, in name only, but they never really followed Jesus. And Robbie, I love that you brought up John 6, where the people left him. And are we teaching a message? Are we preaching a message that is so easy to follow that anyone can do it, whether they're saved or not? Or is it a call to die? Is it literally something that's making us go, okay, am I really willing to follow Jesus when he tells me to go forgive that person who just trashed me online?
Well, I think that's where, the both of you are talking about surrender. And you go back to that fan follower thing. It doesn't cost anything to be a fan.
Right.
There was a point in my life, I was a huge Oakland Athletics fan, right? Could care less about the Athletics today. I have jumped from team to team. I have had the hats. As a kid, I was the bandwagon. It didn't cost me anything to do that. And it doesn't cost you anything to label yourself as a Christian. And I'm very loose with that when people say, well, they're a believer or they're a Christian. I want to know if you're a follower of Jesus. Yeah. Luke. I'll get it right. One of those guys. Luke chapter 9 is there's an invitation from Jesus. Now, it's not a normal invitation. It's not an invitation we really want, but he says, if anybody wants to follow me, go take up your playlist. Go take up your cup of coffee. No, take up your cross. Die to yourself, because the gospel is meant to decimate, get rid of all of our sin. That cost us something. There's a surrender. So even that word believe, I think we have fully missed that understanding. In the Greek, that word there is pisteuo. All in. Every avenue is kind of like Colossians, right? Everything is centered around Jesus. So to be a fan doesn't cost me anything, but if I don't follow Jesus, it costs me everything. I've got to give up my desires, my wants, because that's going to be realigned, because I'm going to desire the things that he wants us to. And so it's just this, what are we dying to? And are our messages to our church calling people to die in order to be resurrected in this new life? Like, Jesus didn't call us to admire him. He called us to follow. And to follow costs us something, because following means there's movement. There's got to be traction. And I think a lot of times what we see, I know, for me, there was a long time I was a fan. I was a fan of church growing up. I didn't grow up necessarily in church. It was about 12 years old we went. I was a fan of the church. Man, I had Stephen Curtis Chapman cassettes. I mean, one of my greatest Christmas gifts, my wife's taking me to go see the Speechless tour here.
I'm so jealous. First three, when I got saved in 2000, first three albums that I bought were the Third Day Offerings album,
Yeah, so good.
the Newsboys Life, Liberty, Disco, and the third was Speechless by Stephen Curtis Chapman, and that's the one that stuck for me.
Tony, you do kind of resemble Peter Furler a little bit with that head, man, and glasses.
I'm just missing the here we go. I'm just missing the accent. There you go.
Give it your shot, man.
But growing up,
I hear they might need a new singer.
Growing up, I had, I was very much a fan. I had all the stuff, the witness wear, the WWJD bracelet. I could quote verses. I had perfect attendance in Sunday school. All those things. But my spiritual life didn't look any different other than the fact that I just decorated it with some spirituality. It wasn't until later in college where think about it. I'm going to school for ministry and I'm a fan. I have not truly become a follower. And
right.
There was almost like a deconstruction for me. A healthy deconstruction, I think, is great as long as your foundation you're building back on is Jesus. So let me state that.
I tend to refer to those as an untangling.
Okay, well, I untangled. I had a lot of untangling to do to get out of that fan zone and just be a full follower because I am in it. It's not like as a fan you're putting your jersey on but never showing up for practice. Jesus never called us to be on the sidelines. I want to be in the game. I want to play, and that's what the Great Commission is. Like the last thing Jesus tells us: go. That is fellowship. Pastors have got to. Can I get one soapbox for 30 seconds?
Go for it.
We have got this. Leadership is important, but we spend so much time trying to develop leaders that we've done a poor job of developing followers.
Yeah.
How in the world are you going to lead if you don't even know how to fellowship? Fellowship is so important of what it looks like. And we need to shift as pastors. We need to learn how to become followers. And we need to learn to teach our people how to follow and live these values out, even when it's hard.
Preacher, preach.
I love that word. I love that word, fellowship.
Pretty sure that's not grammatically correct, but today it is, right?
Well, it might be it very well could be the title of this podcast. I like that.
Well, if you think about it,
it's true.
You guys are pastors. I mean, I'm a student pastor. It's a little different, but who are you following? Mm-hmm. You need to be following Jesus, but then you also need the Jesus next to you. We've got to live in community with each other. Yeah. And let's be honest, pastor to pastor, it can get really lonely. And that's why we have each other, right? We can text or call each other anytime, but who are the people also that you think about our people who are maybe the deacons or the elders or the small group leaders or whatever in our churches? Who are they following? They're following. They might be following us, but they're also this is a big one. They're following TikTok. Mm-hmm. They're following social media influencers, and that's something that I've been a huge Forrest Frank fan. Let's bring him up for a minute because he's doing something that's totally different in Christian music. But I'm really concerned sometimes about the people that I'm seeing online who are like, oh, wait a minute, now I'm a Christian. Let me start having a Bible study online and get all these followers. It's like, well, hold up. Holy Spirit can speak through anybody. I get that. But Tony, what I think you're about to say is go sit under somebody for a little while. Right. Go be discipled so that you can disciple.
Yeah.
And I don't think that you're a disciple until you're discipling.
Mm. So, well, and it's not complete. Yeah, I get it. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. Well, and that's the whole, and I think we've talked about it before. Suddenly all of the things that I'm saying, I realized that I think I've said these 2 years ago in the same arena, but it bears true. And I know I said this before. I remember the clip is that, it's that whole process of a Timothy and a Barnabas. Paul had a Timothy that he poured into, and he had a Barnabas that poured into him. It doesn't work this is so cliche. I know it's so cliche, but I have to say it. There's no such thing as a Lone Ranger Christian. There's just not. And we used to say that for so many years when somebody wouldn't come to church, right? They'd say, I'm a Christian, but I don't really go to church because I don't like church people and all that kind of stuff. Listen, you can't be a Lone Ranger Christian because you have to have community around you. You absolutely have to be built up. And it's stated specifically in throughout the Bible, but I think the greatest practical, and I'm an application guy. I've always been an application guy. I think one of the most practical applications of that is when you look at Paul's life. And again, when you become a follower, suddenly all of these different books of the Bible don't just become separate individual little things. They become the entire narrative, and you begin to look at them and you begin to realize, oh, Paul wrote all of these things. He's pouring into Timothy. Well, who's pouring into him? Oh, I look at in the book of Acts and it tells me that Barnabas was the one that was pouring into him. And even though they had a falling out over John Mark, yeah. Sorry, it was the ADHD.
You got stuck in a glitch. It's all right. We helped you out.
I get stuck in the matrix. But anyway, they had that falling out because, there had been a tiff between Paul and John Mark, and Barnabas was like, listen, there's more there. And even in that disagreement, there's Barnabas that is pouring truth and grace and mercy into Paul, who then turns around and begins pouring that into Timothy, right? And I think that's just a great picture. But again, once you become a follower of Jesus, you begin to understand those things and you look at the Bible completely differently. Well, let's bridge it all together this way, because we've sort of understood the pitfalls. We sort of know the difference between a fan and the follower. And we understand that, yes, this fan style Christianity is a real thing. And we'll get into a little bit more of that next week, because then we're going to talk about how we sort of skipped over it in our notes this morning, but we're going to come back to it next week. And the way that churches are structured today, they sometimes create fans instead of followers. Let's table that. Let's talk about that a little bit more next week, because we're going to talk about branding. Are we following a brand and those types of things? We'll get into a little bit of the tribalism thing that sort of comes out of this. But I want to talk about, okay, yes, fan style Christianity is a real thing. Then the next question has to be, how do we help people take the next step forward? How do we help them in real discipleship, without lowering the bar, and getting them into this?
Jesus already gave us that answer.
Go for it.
We read this, that it's a pastor's responsibility, but he wasn't speaking to pastors. Listen to what he says. Again, Great Commission, Matthew 28. Go make disciples. You ready for this one? Teaching them to obey.
Yep.
Notice there's not after you've been a believer, a Christian, a follower for 10 years, then you start leading other people. It was now.
Yeah.
Go share what you know with who you know. That's why I said a disciple is not a true disciple until they're discipling someone. Because the gospel, and we picked this phrase up from Pastor Joby Martin at our church. We use it a lot. The gospel demands a response. Mm-hmm. I understand Jesus, and I understand the gospel, and I've received those things. I'm going to go teach all that I have learned, and it may not be a lot. It may just be a Bible verse. I'm going to teach that, and I'm not going to just teach it. This is what it says, but this is what Jesus calls us to. Like, for instance, Paul says that I want to know Christ. Not physically, that's a problem. That separates fans from followers too. He's not talking about I know him by head knowledge. I know him by experience. I know him because of what happened. And so I think we've got to get to that place of, if we want to see life change with people, we have got to get to a place where we teach them to obey, like the very thing that we've been called to. And I think sometimes we miss that. Sometimes I miss that, because when I read the scripture and I'll read something about, this is a sin, or this is, whatever. I'm like, oh, I know somebody like that, because I'm always like, oh, this person. But it needs to be like, gosh, that Paul is talking about.
Yeah.
He is like, he's in my email, right? And so we've got to learn to teach obedience, and we've got to stop using as an excuse, well, I don't know enough about the Bible. But teach what the Lord's teaching you. And when somebody's like this conversation, like you're hearing what we're saying today on this, go have this conversation with somebody else. What's something that you've learned from here that's going to help strengthen the church and do something? I think when you're reading scripture, when you're in moments like this, an important question for us to ask is, what is the Holy Spirit trying to show me right now? And what's my obedience point? What's the thing that he's calling me to be obedient with right now in this moment? And then go share that. Wrestle with that, share that. That's discipleship. Not a class, not a large gathering of people. It could be one-to-one. It could be over coffee.
Life on life. Yeah, 100%. Like, as you go, right? Like, as you go, make disciples. And as you go, teach. And like, it's a continual thing.
Yeah.
I was thinking earlier, just coming back to the whole conversation, like about someone who said a prayer but then never really followed through on that. The Christian life is about returning to Christ as many times as is necessary. And there's so many times in my life, right? Like personal testimony, 6 years old, I knew Jesus in my heart. I knew I loved Jesus. I loved his word. I loved his church. But at 12 years old came, and I realized I was a dirty, rotten sinner. Like I knew that my sin is what held Jesus on that cross, his obedience to God, right? But he was doing that for me, and I didn't feel like I deserved it. So at 12 years old, I rededicated my life. Well, we've kind of gone away with that in Christian circles, this whole rededication, but like, because it's not necessarily a ceremony, it's just a decision. Every single day I wake up, I need to rededicate and recenter my life back to Jesus Christ and look at God's word as the litmus test, not some person on a screen and not some manual, but am I living what Jesus has told me in my time with him in the word?
I love how you say that, because the Bible tells us that his mercies are new every morning.
Cool. Thank you.
So why would we not rededicate ourselves every single day to him? Because if not, we're holding on to yesterday's mercy. We're holding on to yesterday's grace. We're holding on to yesterday's blessings when he's got something completely new. So we need to wake up with the mindset, if his mercies are new every morning, then our devotion to him needs to be renewed every single morning. It's a process of waking up and saying, okay, Jesus, what do you have for me today? I'm fully sold out to you completely, and I'm ready to go. Yeah, I absolutely think so.
We quit when we feel like we don't feel anything. We put it on emotion, like we want to give up because, and then we want to compare.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not like this person, and they're doing this, and it seems like every prayer they pray. I mean, they prayed for incredible parking spot at Walmart, and God gave them one right up front. And we often try to play this game of comparison, and the Christian life, discipleship is. It is not a solo sprint. We pass the baton. It takes time. There are moments where you're going quick and things are like boom, 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 and then there's seasons to where your stride kind of slows down. Your muscles, you feel tired, and it's always been like that. I know for me, it's always been like that. I think about, so random, but in 2008. I know that you guys are Big Ten indoor track championship watchers, but there's
absolutely,
you love it. And there's a story that I ran across from the 2008 indoor track championships of a lady named Heather Dorridan. You can watch this video. I just Google it. Google or YouTube Heather Dorridan indoor track championship. She's running a 600-meter final in front of like her home team, her home crowd. They're cheering her on. She's got 200 meters left. She trips on national television. She trips. She falls. Her face slams into the track, and she loses almost 300 meters to the rest of the runners. Now, I would have quit. That would have been it. I'm embarrassed. I would have faked an injury, right? Because there's no way, because she's like, oh, she was going to win. And I was like, no way. Heather gets up. She pushed herself. She set her eyes on that finish line, and she begins to sprint. And she didn't just run hard. She ran because she had something to prove, because she knew the moment wasn't over. So one by one, she begins making up distance and passed every single runner until the final stretch. She went past the leader. She crossed the finish line, and she finished first. That is a living picture of disciple making. Stumbling, having seasons where you slow down, where you feel like you're falling far behind. But our mission never, ever stops. God's not done with us. There's seasons to where we feel like we're sharing the gospel a lot, and there's a lot of spiritual conversations. And there's seasons where, man, does God even still love me? Is God, where is he right now? And those are normal. So this is just a moment of us understanding that we just need to be consistent. Not every day is a highlight reel. Nobody likes the behind the scenes stuff, but not every day is a highlight reel. We've been commanded to do 4 things: to go, to make disciples, to baptize, and to teach. That's everybody. That's not just a pastor. That is everybody who calls and says, Jesus, I want to die to you daily, and I want to follow you. If you want to follow him, this is what a surrendered life looks like. You're going, you're making disciples everywhere, you're sharing the gospel, not being weird about it, not handing out fake dollar bills and throwing them on the ground so somebody opens it like, oh man, somebody gave me a tract. Oh, I'm going to hell. I should get saved. Like, go have spiritual conversations with people. Jeff, you talked about this one time. I'm pretty sure it was you. If not, I've given you credit for this a lot.
Good.
But like going to the ball fields and just listening to what people are saying. Like when a mom or a dad says, yeah, that's my kid. I'm really just struggling. Oh, and you hear that and let's talk about that for a minute. That was you, right? Did I make that up?
Yeah, I stole it from the Life on Mission training with the 3 circles, where they talk about you listen for something that's not right in the world, and it's a cue, it's an opportunity to say, well, isn't this not how it should be, right? Like, so by listening to what people are saying, and my dog died, man, I hate that your dog died, and you connect with that person, and then using that as an opportunity. Yeah, so keep going. That's right.
Yeah, and that's how we got to be very in tune with the Holy Spirit. And you can't be in tune with the Holy Spirit if you're not following. It's a dance, it's a cadence. Paul says we walk in cadence with the Spirit. And that's daily. And so every day we got to get up, clear out the noise. And again, some days are awesome. I mean, church life, pastoring life, there's seasons of pastoring that this is awesome. I want to do it for the rest of my life. And then there are days it's like praying like Moses. You kill them or you kill me. But one of us has got to go, right?
Yeah. Yeah. There are days you want to crawl up under a rock and just. I always remember the cartoon. Honey, the husband's in bed and he's curled up. He's got the covers over him, and his wife's like, "Honey, you got to get up. You got to go." He's like, "I don't want to. They're mean to me. They're ugly to me." And she goes, "But honey, you're the pastor. They're expecting you to be there."
I think sometimes, man, we just like when we want to quit, we quit in the mundane because it's just mundane. But I think God has done his best work in the mundane. In the desert.
Oh, yeah.
He's minding his own business. The bush catches on fire. Paul's just casually riding a horse. God catches him in the mundane. Don't underestimate the development of discipleship in the mundane, and don't underestimate the development of discipleship in the hard times. Working out. I hate working out. I hate even thinking about running. I tell people, if you see me running, you probably should be doing the same because something's wrong. But the reason I hate working out is because, not just because it's a discipline, but like when you're lifting weights, you're tearing muscle and it hurts, but you get stronger. You're literally making microfiber tears in your muscles so it can grow back stronger. And in those moments where we want to quit because it's hard, what if I told you in those moments that is God developing you too? And on the other side of this, you will come out stronger and more like Jesus. But that only happens when you have fully surrendered and trust him with the end result, and have fully given yourself to him and saying, Lord, my time, my talent, my treasure, my life, it's yours. Do what you will. And we got to remind ourselves of that every single day to be followers. it costs something. And it's expensive, because Jeff alluded to it a minute ago about, this life. Jesus has come to give us life. I would even say it this way. He didn't just come to give us a better life. He came to give us life, because we didn't know what life was until he came.
A new life.
That's important. A new life, an abundant life. So
that's good. If you think about it, a lot of the times people are fans and not followers of Jesus. I think of the Gandhi quote, right? He was, "I would be a Christian if I could find one."
Yeah.
And that's a sting, right? But when you think about the one another, that we carry each other's burdens, that we lift each other up. A lot of times, Robbie used that example of the track runner. Like, there's going to be people that come along in your life for seasons of just picking you up and carrying you. And you two guys are that for me. And I hope that I've been like that for you guys at different times in our own journey. But, we need to just have some callous, grow some, go out there and Robbie, in your book, you talk about, right, that the first time you wanted to serve, your youth pastor gave you a broom, right? We need to go and just do some little things to serve other people, and to just you learn to deal with other people. Everybody wants a platform, but man, God didn't give everybody a platform. What if he called you to be a janitor of a church, or at a local elementary school? Can you do that as of unto the Lord, or do you have to have the platform to be able to follow Jesus? That's a fan or a follower, like a litmus test, right? Can you follow Jesus with no one ever saying good job? Could you follow Jesus with people attacking you, talking bad about you? I think about our brothers overseas and places around the world, right, that are following Jesus in dire circumstances, risking their life for the gospel. And it just makes me sometimes, the guilt and shame jump in real quick. Like, man, I'm not doing enough for Jesus. But then I got to remind myself that I'm walking my own discipleship path. It's not going to be the exact same for every person, too.
Yeah. Well, let me sort of put the bow on this conversation this way by bringing it back to something that I think we all need to hear. Living this Christian life isn't easy. Jesus never asked people if they liked him. They never asked if they would follow him. I'm sorry, I'll back up and say that again. He never asked for people to like him. He just called on them to follow him. Mm-hmm. And following Jesus is never about, listen, so many times I've asked God, like, what does this mean? What are we doing here? All this kind of stuff. I want the information, all of this, or sometimes it even creeps into, we want preference or we want it this way or that way or whatever the case may be. But that's not what Jesus is about. Jesus is always about surrender. Because there were moments when the crowds were big, the momentum was strong, everything looked wonderful and successful, and Jesus still turned to them and said hard things, not because he wanted fewer people, but because he wanted the honest ones. He wanted the real ones. Because, I mean, let's be really honest. It's easy to show up. It's easy to agree. It's easy to, especially if you're a fan, it's easy to cheer from a distance, but following Jesus means letting him speak into our choices, letting him speak into our priorities, our relationships. I used to joke with my students this way, but it was true. But I used to have fun with it. Every choice that you make needs to be veiled in Jesus, because it needs to be, even stupid mundane stuff like, should I brush my teeth today? Yeah. Absolutely. Why? Because if Jesus gives you the opportunity to speak to somebody about him, you don't want stank breath, right? You don't want to push him away, But we used to joke about these things, but let every decision that you make be in the lens of how does this allow me the opportunity to be everything that I can be for Jesus? And sometimes faithfulness is going to cost us popularity. It's going to cost us approval. But there is no more of a full joy or real understanding or real freedom than actually being surrendered to Jesus. So maybe the question that we leave you with today isn't, do you believe in Jesus? Maybe it's this. Maybe if I always used to do it this way. If being a Christian were illegal, would there be enough evidence in your life for somebody to convict you? Never let it be about your words or your social media or your church attendance, but let them see it in the way that you live your life. Are you a fan or are you a follower? And if the answer feels a little bit uncomfortable, I want you to understand that's not condemnation on you today. That's not what the three of us are here to do. It's an invitation. Because Jesus is still saying the same thing that he's always said. He's saying, follow me. Not when it's easy, not when it's popular, not when it benefits you, but because he is worthy and because life is found nowhere else but in Jesus Christ. Thank you for being a part of our conversation today. We appreciate it. And next week we're going to carry this a little bit further. Now, the way that we used to do this podcast years ago is we just sit around and come up with different ideas and talk about different things and whatever came to mind. This time around, we're doing it a little bit differently, and we're doing this in seasons because and each season has its own sort of theme or idea. This is the first of 10 episodes this season, and we hope you'll stick around for all of them because next week we're going to carry this conversation a little bit further and talk about tribalism and church branding and those types of things. And is the church really permeating this idea of being a fan versus being a true follower and what that means? Some of these conversations are going to get really hard, and some of these conversations may make you look at the way you're living your life, the way you're living out your Christianity, and it might even be the way or who you're following, who you're listening to online, the Christian voices that you're hearing that are a part of your algorithm, or maybe it's even the church that you're following. We're going to talk about that a whole lot more over the next 2 weeks, and then we've got some other things, including, and I'm really excited about this, and I think my brothers will be excited about this as well. We're going to talk about things that pastors wish that their congregation actually knew. That's going to be fun. We're gonna have a lot of fun, and we might even pull out an episode of just some fun Christian memes and talk about them and explore them a little bit deeper. But it's been a joy to have my brothers, Pastor Robbie, Pastor Jeff, with me today. Love you guys. Thank you so much for doing this, and thank you guys so much for being a part of this and watching. If you would, please like, subscribe. Or just follow us. We're going to be on so many different platforms from all of our different ministries. So it's going to be everywhere. So wherever you do it, just make sure you like, subscribe, give us a comment, shoot us a word. You know, it might even be fun towards the end of the season, maybe the last episode of the season. Maybe we go an 11th episode in this first season, and maybe do one live. Where folks can actually kind of key in and send us comments and things to talk about and questions and all of that kind of stuff. But we'll pray about that one and tackle that one when we come along to it. Jeff, thank you again, brother. Appreciate you.
Thank you, Pastor
love
Tony.
you, Robbie.
You too, brother.
Love you, brother, and I appreciate these guys so much. And when I tell you that we are friends, we actually very much are friends. And the things that we say here about each other, about lifting each other up, that is absolutely true. These are just three friends having a conversation. We love you, appreciate you, and we'll see you guys next time.